Oh, stink. I need to grow an afro. Hey y'all, I'm James Wright and welcome to my shop. Today I am going up to Matt Cremona's place and going to be helping him out building his bandsaw. He's building a bandsaw that will hold 5-foot wide logs. Mind-blowing. But I'm going to give him a hand with that, and so I figured I need to make him a present. So let's whip something up here quickly. Curly white oak, Padauk, and a pattern to follow, and we can make this happen. I'll start by cutting out the M and the C from the main part of the logo. I just wanted to start with these letters and work everything out from there. I'm actually going to make these letters and all of the banding out of Padauk. Very hard, but I like the color. It's just absolutely beautiful. I had to resaw it down to about 3/16 of an inch thick for the letters and banding, and Padauk is difficult to resaw. But I put on some blue masking tape and then was able to put the glue stick onto it to adhere the patterns down too. This way I could peel the blue tape off later, and a great trick. I don't remember where I learned it, but I love it. For some odd reason, I feel like I'm cutting dovetails. I don't know why. But just like any dovetail, I clean out the waste with a chisel. Once I've cut down either side, just makes it fairly easy to pop out and get the right shape. And then I'll come in with a chisel and just clean up any of the saw marks, particularly on this because it's going to be inlaid. I want that edge to be perfectly smooth. Now back to the white oak. Curly white oak is a lot of fun to work with, but kind of difficult sometimes. You just have to be very, very careful because the grain goes everywhere. This board did have a solid split in it, and I had to kind of work around that, but was able to fit the piece in, and I was very happy with how it came out. Now, as I was saying before, the curly white oak is very, very difficult. The grain does not like to stick together, but it is extremely hard. And if you're not careful, it will bite you and you'll get tear out everywhere. So I'm using a very finely set blade with a close chip breaker. Everything is just about as perfect as it can be to make sure I get a nice smooth surface. I'll start by outlining the letters with an extremely sharp pencil, making sure to get back into the corners, giving myself a nice crisp line to follow. Rather than sharpening the chisel every 5 minutes when working in this hard wood, I find it easier to just stop every minute or two and strop. Just a couple dozen strokes on it, and that saves me from having to sharpen it all the time. And a very sharp edge is extremely important in this. I'll start by outlining the letters, staying a good ways away from my line. I want to keep about a 1/16 of an inch to an 1/8 of an inch away. And with that outline mark, I can then cut back to that outline mark, removing this V all the way around the outside, giving it a nice clean dimension so that I can come in and remove the majority of the waste. I'm having to be very careful with this because if I am not, the grain will run away with it and I will end up with tear out of one kind or another. But as long as the chisel is sharp and I'm not pushing farther than I should, it's pretty safe to work with. I'll just come back in, bevel down, and remove the waste on the other side, and be left with a nice clean edge. I'll then come through and just make sure that everything is tight right up to the line, giving myself a clean, smooth surface all the way around for the letter to fit into. And then I'll bring the letter over and fit it in and go back and make some adjustments and then try it again. And I'll put the letter in and out 4 or 5 times until everything is nice and tight. And then we can glue it down. Put enough glue in to let it spread around and work it down into the surface. I like to make it tight enough so I have to tap it down, but not so tight that it ends up chipping off some corner of something. And I like it when it just slides in like that. Now for the letters and banding around the outside, I do the same thing with the masking tape and glue stick. I'll put down this pattern all the way around the outside. And then with a chisel, I mark one side of the groove that I want to make. I don't mark both sides because I want the width to be determined by the banding I use, not the banding determined by the groove that I make. It's just a little bit easier that way. On the lettering, the groove is about a 1/16 inch wide and a little over a 1/16 inch deep, and it's very difficult to get a chisel down into that small space. So I use the chisel to basically make the walls on either side of the line, and I will chop down on one side and then rotate around and chop down on the other side, and then I'll come in with a knife and remove the waste inside. And sometimes I have to do this 2 or 3 times in order to get down to the full depth I'm looking for. It is a bit tedious, but it is well worth it, and if you take your time, you'll end up with a really nice sharp edge that it fits all the way down into. Now, if you have a chisel that's small enough, you can work that down in the bottom to remove the waste, and in these banding lines that are wide enough, I can do that. Now let's actually make this banding. I start by double-side taping a piece of the Padauk down to the table so I can plane it down to thickness, and then I bring it over to the bench and very carefully rip it down to the appropriate size. The banding around the outside is about an 1/8 inch by about 3/16. And then the letters are about a 1/16 of an inch thick by about 3/16 inch wide, but I'll end up shaping those more when I go to fit them in. But cutting a 1/16 inch wide strip evenly all the way down to the bottom is kind of a fun practice for using a saw. I'll fit the banding into the slot and then mark it, and well, I can see that tiny little tick mark. I'll make it a little deeper, and then I'll shape it with a chisel and then fit it back into the slot, and then make another adjustment and mark it again and trim it and fit it back into the slot, and I'll put it back into the slot 3 or 4 times until I get a really nice fit. Once I have the nice fit, I'll add glue to the slot and then work in the banding. If I need to, I'll use a little bit of super glue just to hold it in place temporarily until the wood glue sets. But if you're very careful in your preparation and make it all fit, it works rather well. I leave them high so that they're easy to work with, and then I'll come back in with a plane and clean them up once the glue starts to set. I have to be very careful not to go too far because smoothing a block plane like this will cause all sorts of problems with the grain. With a very, very finely set plane, I can come in and give it a very nice finish, so it's fairly smooth all the way across and feels great. I'll sometimes use the scraper, but it leaves a little bit rougher surface. But on the corners, I wanted to put a chamfer and clean those up, and the plane would have just made a mess of this. It would have dug in and chipped out, so the scraper's great there. Another chance I get to use my branding iron. I love this thing. Made it, almost a year ago now, and use it on most every project. I start by applying 3 to 4 coats of boiled linseed oil, letting it soak in until it completely absorbs it. And then I will put on some shellac. Because this is not something I hold in my hand, I wanted to have a nice finished look to it. And so the shellac on top of the boiled linseed oil, and then in between the coats I buff it down with paper bag. Gives me that really nice finish that I'm looking for. And I am very happy with how this came out. I hope that Matt likes it, and yeah, this was fun. So there you have it. I am really happy with how this came out. I wasn't sure about doing a shellac finish on it, but I'm glad I did. It gives it a little bit more of a finished look, especially since it's not something that's going to be handled all that often. So I kind of like the look on that. So I hope that Matt likes it. I'll be giving it to him here in a little bit, and we'll find out. But this was really a pleasure to learn. I was trying to do a few different things that I haven't done before, and I'm happy with how it came out. There's a few things I would do differently next time, especially with working with this curly white oak, which I've been having a lot of fun with recently. It is very difficult to get a nice clean line in it because it splinters off. There's very little cohesion between the grain, and it is, well, it's kind of crunky, but it works, and it works really well. So I'm very pleased with how this came out, and I hope Matt likes it. So if you like this video, please hit like and think about subscribing. I want to say a huge thank you to the patrons on Patreon. You guys are absolutely phenomenal and a huge reason why I can do this today. So thank you for that. Also, if you did like this, you might like one of my other videos, or feel free to click on Matt's channel and see what he does. He has some really sweet things over there, and he's been a huge encouragement and inspiration to me. So check out what he does, and until next time, have a wonderful day.